If we continue to burn all the fossil fuels, we will certainly get those effects. We can't say exactly what date an ice sheet is going to collapse, but we know that the ice sheets will collapse and sea level will go up many meters. So you don't want to push the system past those kind of tipping points, because if we do, we leave a situation for our children and grandchildren that will be out of their control. They won't be able to stop it.
It is now acknowledged that climate change is one of the greatest challenges currently facing humanity. But how do we tackle it? At times it appears like an impossible puzzle to solve. But there is a solution. It's called divestment. Here's the full story. Enormous pressures are now being placed on all nations to drastically cut carbon emissions in order to halt a dangerous rise in global temperatures.
We're headed for 4 degrees, which is way beyond anything that we want to be and beyond anything that we are likely to be able to cope with. The stated desire for all countries is to stay well below 2 degrees temperature rise.
We're seeing the impacts of global climate change all over the planet. These vary depending on which part of the world we are discussing, but include increases in floods, ever-worsening wildfires, more widespread droughts, intensifying heat waves, observed coral bleaching events, the devastating power of typhoons and hurricanes. These changes in climate have huge implications, as Dr. Francis points out.
People who worry about whether there's enough fresh water to supply cities, to supply reservoirs and for agriculture and just all kinds of other uses. Yes, it has a huge impact for a whole range of issues that affect the way we live.
The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the IPCC, have set a target of 2 degrees Celsius as the safe limit beyond which climate disruption is likely to have disastrous consequences for our future. The IPCC go on to estimate that we will reach this target by mid-century, and with business-as-usual emissions, we will reach 4 degrees Celsius by the end of this century. Professor Schellenhuber from the Potsdam Institute for Climate Change Research points out that the difference between 2 degrees and 4 degrees is human civilization, and he calls divestment the most important action that ever happened on climate change. The one driving factor of global climate disruption is the greenhouse gas emissions from burning fossil fuels. Targets for reducing global greenhouse gas emissions are not yet adequate to avoid the most catastrophic of climate changes. One of the most important aspects of this is changing the investment policies that currently support exploration and development projects for fossil fuels.